Hello everyone, my name is Zachary as always. Today I am reviewing the movie The Hunger Games. This movie came out in 2012. I was 1 year old when this came out. And I'm reviewing it today because I watched it. In fact, I actually watched this movie after seeing the prequel. So yeah, that kind of changes my opinion a little bit. But yeah, so let's get into it. So this movie is the 74th annual Hunger Games. 74th annual Hunger Games. And yep, so our main characters are Katniss Everdeen and Peeta. Mainly Katniss. Peeta gets pushed off to the side, like, in this entire franchise. But yeah, I don't know. But eventually they get put into the Hunger Games, and there's this, and when they're going into the Hunger Games, we see this fire effect on their clothing, and they do this effect again in the second film, but it's like but the effects are slightly better in that one than it is in this one. Still cool to see though. We get to see the atmosphere of what Panem and the Capitol is like. We get to see shots of this movie is shot a lot different. This one's shot a lot differently than the other ones because this movie is shot to where you get to see a lot more of the surroundings and what's happening around them. So we get to build our surroundings for later so we know what's happening, which is really cool. Like, they'll have one thing happening and then it'll cut to another thing of like showing the crowd in the background. Like a bunch of just like Capitol people, and they're like dressed oddly. And that's how we get our surroundings throughout this entire movie, no matter what scenario it is. Not only this, but if we go, but the character of Caesar Flickerman is like the most over-the-top character ever. It's like so goofy, It's like top-notch, man, top-notch. But the person who actually decided to get into the Hunger Games is named, I seriously can't remember, but so she's roughly important. The other person we see is more important, which happens to be Haymitch, character named Haymitch. That would be the tribute's pretty much instructor on how to win the Hunger Games, and people in the Hunger Games, they have to train inside the Capitol. And so yeah, there is a lot to see in this movie. And eventually, after an amount of days of training, they go out into the Hunger Games, into this huge forest. And they have these all this huge stash of weapons in one place. But guess who doesn't go there? Peeta, because he's intelligent, because he knows if he goes over there, the most deaths are going to happen, because that's where all the weapons are. So they're both like, haha, we're smart. So then, and we learn that Katniss is good with a bow and arrow, which is good to know because, well, that's what she uses in every single movie, except for the prequel, obviously, but the main Hunger Games movie, she uses a bow and arrow. She goes through the forest doing all these different things. Like, there's one scene where she's climbing up a tree, and there's this huge, like, chemically engineered wasps. There's a huge hive of them in one area. So she cuts off a branch with that hive, and it drops on a little girl's head, or a kid's head. And, like, this entire group of people just dies, and she just leaves. It's like, it really shows what pieces of crap these people can be sometimes. But, yeah. So I really like this movie. In fact, this is my most favorite out of all the Hunger Games movies. But, so yeah, there's a lot to cover in this movie. We get to see Peeta, even though he's injured for almost all the movie, which is irritating in some instances. Actually, it's very irritating sometimes, but that aside, it's still like fine. Good to see. And then, so it's nice to see the surroundings of the Capitol, get introduced to a lot of the characters. not the tribute. The tributes don't matter, but because they're all dead. But like, yeah. And then, for the first time in any of the Hunger Games, the 74th annual Hunger Games, we get to see 2 people survive, Peeta and Katniss. And in this, we see them both survive because they're like, if we both can't survive, then we're both gonna die. So, but then the Capitol's like, just let them go. So then they're let go, and then they just leave. They literally just leave the Hunger Games, and after this, they're a couple now. They're considered a couple. And what do they do now? Well, we just have to figure out in the sequel. Yeah, man. But yeah, guys, there's a lot of good parts in this movie. It's an interesting movie. It's a movie where you'd either like some elements, or you're either it's either gonna be a thing and you're gonna like it, or it's not, or maybe somewhere in the middle. I don't know, but I enjoyed this movie. If you enjoyed this video or any of my other content, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.